Hi there. Decided to do another little blog today. Post bath rather than the bath. Felt like I needed some private time. I had a few points, I suppose, to make. Well, I can find my filters. I don't know. I just have the fire effect on. It's not actually that cold. I often compare myself to certain animals, not in a I think I can change into them kind of way, but simply in my habits and general concepts. Canines especially, I think, unless there's I don't know, something odd on the sofa. Canines, wild canines in general, the wolf, fox, the coyote, the hyena. Although technically, are they dogs or not? I can never quite remember. I know they're almost a species of their own. I seem to think it's debatable, but hyenas. And pack animal opportunists to a certain extent, I suppose. But creatures that are also perfectly capable of operating on their own to a certain extent. All living beings need some form of social contact. I think that is a given thing. Those who can survive without it, I've never been sure what to make of them, really. I tried to organise this while I was in the bath. It's not going very well, is it? But, that's high-functioning autism, ADHD at times. And, the point is, I often feel perhaps like, say, originally I was, we'll go with wolf because it's really macho. A wolf cub in quite a laid-back wilderness area. And then humans moved in, and all of a sudden having to deal with this new thing in the environment. And I'm a cub and I'm curious. I don't get myself into too much trouble because I stay very close to the den. Mother's very protective, dad is very fierce and instills discipline in us. And then, as a young wolf, I start wanting to venture out on my own, and I make a lot of mistakes. And wash my jeans a bit. And I take some licks. Occasionally ones I get scolded for because I really shouldn't have been doing them. And, well, eventually, on and off and on, I spend time further away from the nest, the den, as it were. I'll get it right one of these days. And, I don't know, I adventure. I find things, but somehow I never quite fit in amongst these humans who are multiplying. They're everywhere. I don't understand them. They feel wrong. most of them. There are some who I have some fellow feeling with, but not many. And sometimes I react very aggressively to new or uncomfortable situations, and this makes me very untrustworthy in the eyes of the humans. I don't want this unpredictable big bad wolf in their midst, do they? Because, I'm now a strong young wolf, adventurous, curious, and sometimes I get so vicious when things, either don't go my way or I'm confronted with a new situation. That these people are like, well, I've been lucky that I was never put down, or hunted. But I've always somehow managed to avoid that. Interesting concept, this. Just playing around. I'm sober too. And well, the fierce discipline imbued in me by the pack alpha and the care provided by the alpha female, there's still the fierce discipline in me that at times I struggle to stick with in the past. I think I'm better with it now. And the way being back at reenactment training has helped this now quite long in the tooth, Wolf, to reinstill that discipline, to follow orders again. But, it has to be in an environment where I feel comfortable and am shown respect and will give respect back. I'm finding at least 2 places physically and perhaps another place or 2 online where this seems to be happening, and it's good. I've had a few hiccups. I've possibly backed away from a few situations that may have seemed dodgy to me but may not have been. And on other occasions I've read situations and they certainly seem the way they seem. I mean, one example was a young lady who's a friend of a friend, I won't go into details, who after 2 weeks of being a Facebook spook, basically gave me 20 quid so I could go for a night out. And I chatted, thanked him profusely. He said, well, if you ever need a favour, just ask. And then she just started blanking me. If I loved or made a comment, I loved her posts or made a comment, it was ignored. I'd occasionally try messaging her hi. Bit more heat, please. It's still not very warm in the UK, has to be said. Probably not as cold as it is in certain parts of the US, but, it's all relative, isn't it? No, and the conclusion I came to is that perhaps she didn't check my Facebook profile well enough to realise that I was most definitely not single. But that's just my guesstimate. I'm not that good at reading people's motivations some of the times, especially when it comes to women or men or anybody normal. I struggle. People have to be pretty blatant with me to get anything through. It's not a talent of mine. But in hindsight, I can usually read exactly what's gone on if you see what I mean. And it all makes sense. If only I was better at reading that at the time. Yeah. I mean, you know, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of very good people who had training in care work for years and years, who say that sometimes my way of disengaging from a situation is overly passive aggressive. I think that's quite true, but it's all I've ever known. You snarl and bark at something you want to get the fuck away from you. I grew up with a father who was very much like that when things got too stressful. I've grown up with a lot of people like that. Been friends with a lot of people like that, and I've always appreciated that slightly rough and sometimes quite scary honesty. And I think, you know, to go back to the wolf analogy, I may be a little too long in the tooth to learn anything other than quiet avoidance. You know, I have learned to think, right, I can't really snap aggressively or make a scene here, so I need to back the hell away and just let what's happening happen and have nothing to do with it. Maybe come back later, you know what I mean. Yeah. Yeah, my natural instinct is when someone's being a dick, to confront them about it very, you know, very passive aggressively or even overtly aggressively. Because that's how most people I've ever looked up to have always done it. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's a character flaw. But to me, it seems like a natural way. It's my natural inclination. I'm not saying it's right. You know, it seems to get shit done. I'm sure I've alienated some potential acquaintances, maybe even some potential friends over the years being like that. But that's just the way it is, and I have to be willing to accept the consequences of that. And I think in past relationships, I never accepted the consequences of those actions. I've had relationships in the past where I've got very verbally aggressive with partners, and 2 occasions in the past where, in my own defence from a perceived attack, I've warded someone off quite physically on 2 occasions that I can remember. Both those people were very troubled themselves, and I was certainly. The first occasion I was very, very troubled. The second occasion I wasn't as troubled as the young lady I was seeing, and I found it difficult and uncomfortable to deal with. And I come to a conclusion about Steve downstairs. I think he's possibly worse for ADHD and autism than I am. But it's never been treated, probably not medicated either. And he's never been... armpit hair, never mind, I'm supposed to have that because I'm male, aren't I? Women naturally have it as well, but, you know, our personal preference, I'd prefer not to see it. Just personal preference. Each to their own. You know, everybody's got their, you know, not kink shaming or anything. And, Well, I might get some shit in the comments for that. But basically, I've had some troubled relationships in the past. And I've had some very good relationships that I've, up until I met Michelle, that I've regretted leaving. Because I'd look back before I met Michelle and thought, why did you leave that lady? She was very good for you. She was giving and loving. So why was that not enough for you? I think I hadn't finished exploring, and that's important. But you've got to learn to deal with those regrets. No, I'm not breaking into a Robbie Williams song. But yeah, it's a similar sentiment. So yeah, but this guy down says, I think he's gone through his life getting away with his behaviour. Possibly, I know his parents seem to be of about the generation of my mother and father, possibly even older. I've no idea whether he's an only child, but I strongly suspect he is. Oh yeah, we had another incident this morning with him, by the way. I keep an eye on what goes on. Bit of flexing. And basically, I could hear him go out the door, check down, and he was in the neighbour's garden. Now, the flats to my left, they were originally a family home. They're now a rent-a-room. There's a few good people in there. You know who you are. Well, at least two of you do. Chris and Paula. Hello, mates. And he's been seen doing it a few times. He's just been wandering into their garden, picking up the rubbish, putting it in the bin, and just hanging around in their garden. And he was picking up the rubbish bins because I've spoken to the landlord next door, and their rubbish keeps piling up because there's too many people in there, and the council just won't provide them with the extra bins he's requested. And he doesn't really want to fork out for them. Well, he should. But landlords don't like spending money, do they? Times are tough for everyone, but I think they're a little tougher for those further down the feeding chain, if you know what I mean. And, well, I thought, that's our bins he's putting that in. What the? Next thing I know, he's trundling the bin up from round back and putting it in their front garden. I'm like, I open the window, I'm like, Steve, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, well, all the rubbish keeps piling up. I said, Steve, that's a different letting agent, different landlord. Put the fucking bin back. I don't get it. Well, I do. I think he's just so anxiety-ridden and ADHD autistic that he just goes randomly. He's randomly trying to fit in. And he's not doing a very good job of it. And because I don't know him, and he certainly doesn't seem to have any redeeming features he's willing to share. I know being able to sing. He's an appalling singer when he's drunk, I'll tell you that. Or, you know, play an instrument, or, you know, I shared quite a bit in the week before the whole police incident about my life. He never volunteered any information, whether that's a lack of self-confidence or just because he has nothing to volunteer. I mean, he seems to spend his life sitting there watching daytime television and whooping and hollering at certain points in it. So I don't think I'm judging him that harshly from what I have seen, witnessed and heard. I could be. And, you know, certain people said, well, maybe you should reserve judgment. But the guy got his 3 strikes. I had to call the police on him. Then there was what definitely became a little bit of stalkerish behaviour the next week. The 2 or 3 times he knocked on the door after I blatantly told him I didn't want to talk to him, asking things like, "Is damp coming through the wall? My telly's not working." Not my problem, mate. Speak to the letting agent. Ring your internet service provider. Fuck off. And well, then Mothering Sunday. Every time someone left or returned to the building during the day, he'd be within 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, he'd be out there having a fag. And he'd be, you know, nosing to see who was coming in or out. And I thought, well, maybe his partner's gone to visit her mother on Mother's Day. He obviously didn't. Because from what I got told before the police incident, when I stopped engaging with him as much as possible, was his father had just had a triple bypass operation. His mother sounded very elderly and frail and really not capable of dealing with the situation. Fair enough, I think. And well, gathering thoughts. Come on, big brain. Right. And you know, last night before I went to reenactment training, all of a sudden, because the both of them this time, so she's back, all of a sudden, as I was loading up the taxi with my quite discreetly camouflaged reenactment gear in 2 axes and a sword in a guitar canvas bag, reinforced at the bottom, a backpack with a helmet in, a large canvas bag with my shield in it. The only thing that might have been a little obvious to an astute observer was the long white ash shaft with a pillowcase over the top hiding the spearhead. But I somehow doubt he's smart enough to work that one out, even though I told him that's what I'd do before the police incident. So if some of that has filtered into his brain, it's surprising that it's weird. Again, a lot of people think I'm weird, so there you go. And this morning, what? I don't know. I really do genuinely hope now, understanding what I think I understand about him, that he manages to calm down a bit and get himself some help. But if he doesn't, I have no sympathy for him. He's had his 3 chances with me. I won't help him. And I am very disinclined to help his partner, Mags, either. It's not my business. I mean, if I hear screams and broken glass, I will phone the police. It's their responsibility then, isn't it? Mind you, the police do not like getting involved in domestics in the UK. So by the time they do get involved, things have usually taken a very bad turn. I don't know if he's capable of that. I don't know if he's not. That's why we feel on edge living above this unpredictable man. There's no telling what wacky, jolly thing, well, not jolly, but yeah, wacky thing he's going to get up to next. And I've been there. My partner has had to put up with me being like that. I mean, round about COVID, I went through a stage like that. I was very unpredictable. I was blatantly training outside by the garages out back in full view of people. Normally in the evening when it was a little bit dark. with my blunted axes and stuff, and that was just a silly thing to do. It really was. I was asking for trouble. Because the Street Outback has a fair few undesirables on it, in my opinion. I've been told sometimes that my opinions on certain people are snap judgments and you shouldn't judge everyone like that, but I'm afraid 75% of the time their behaviours seem exactly as I thought of them. And I've got very limited my people skill reservoir is very small. So I have to pick and choose who I choose to interact with and try to understand. I think. Therefore I am Descartes. I did study a side option in philosophy when I was trying to do a history degree. I never completed it. I annoyed the hell out of the very philosophical philosophy teacher, because I used to approach philosophy rather like a bull at a gate. Back then, no sophistication. I haven't really changed that much as someone who I really get on with, Chip, Ipswich Community Hub, pointing out to me, Howard, even when you're attempting to be subtle, you're really not very subtle. That's just how I am. I mean, there are a lot of people that do find it very uncomfortable, but there are some who think it's hilarious. When I realise I'm doing it, sometimes I find it hilarious. So one incident many years ago, when I had a vague crush on a guy, I had no real intentions of doing anything. No, I didn't actually. Nah. And she enjoyed the flirtation, but that was as far as it went, you know. I am a flirt. It's what I do, you know. And at one point, we're all sitting around a table in, would have been the Swan and the Hedgehog, and this would have been pre-COVID, probably about a decade ago. Maybe between a decade and 7 years ago, I think. So 4 years since Richie Day, a friend of mine who was killed. So yeah, I reckon about a decade ago then. I think I still see her occasionally flash up on Instagram, but she's one of these people that regularly changes and renews her Instagram account. You know, social media butterfly. And anyways, one night we're all in there, and she was sitting on the other side of the table, but the side of the bench, because it was one of those picnic bench style outside pub tables. And well, switch that fire off, getting a bit toasty. And basically, I did the whole putting my leg up, Commander Riker style. And she just stood up to me and went, "Oh, Howard." And at the time I'd been drinking, I didn't even realise what I was doing. But now in retrospect, she was basically saying, "You're being a bit of a knob." And I don't blame her either. That was such a blatant bit of, "Hey, baby, give me some sugar." It makes me laugh now. It really does. And that, I think many people misunderstand that. I mean, I think him downstairs has been misunderstood a lot, but he's pushed it too far. And I've done that to a lot of people over the years, so I do feel some understanding, but quite simply because he's shown me no respect. Can't even apologise, doesn't know what an apology is, because he's shown me no value and no redeeming features in his personality. I haven't got time for that. I've got my own shit to deal with. And my partner has her own shit to deal with. And sometimes we still have little irritating clashes. Because that's what being in a long-term relationship, these things happen. Anybody who's been in a long-term relationship and is still in it and claims it's always been smooth sailing, well, they're either lying or they don't talk to each other. It's as simple as that. I think my parents got through the last 20 odd years of their marriage without really seeming to talk about anything. They just, well, this is us, let's just get on with it. And sometimes when I was round there, it would turn into UK watchers will get this. Anybody else, if you try and find it, One Foot in the Grave on YouTube. This was what my parents were like, the two main characters who were an elderly couple. Got a bit of God rays going on there. Wow. God ray. Oh, special effects that I didn't even know were there. Or is there a spirit in the room, maybe? Ooh. But no. I feel that they were constantly getting on each other's nerves and arguing about petty things with each other. Oh, you didn't do that night off. I don't believe it. That was this guy's catchphrase. Something would happen. It was a situational comedy. British TV used to have a lot of them. Some of them were very, very good. Some of them have dated rather a lot. Some of them just never appealed. So yeah, but they stuck at it with dedication. They were very different people. My father had his share of problems. I recently found out, that this is no revelation to anyone in my family who may watch this, that not long after I was born, he had an affair. As soon as my mother announced she was pregnant with my younger brother, he quit that affair and never went back, as far as we know. And I think that is the truth, because my father had the same fierce sense of honour that I have. If he gave his word on something, he meant it, which is why he very rarely made any promises to anyone. And I've been like that over the years. When I first met my current partner, I made no promises to begin with. I set down quite harsh ground rules, I must admit. I had a very severe lack of trust, and amongst certain people, I still do. It's something I'm trying to work on. I'm certainly working and volunteering at CHIP, which Community Hub has helped with that to a certain extent. That eagle, tangent, and that Grim Reaper, I would really like to have covered up by twin ravens at some point. There's a little dragon on my back that's not too bad. It's a bit cutesy. I wouldn't mind getting that covered with something maybe Nordic, because that tends to be my bag these days. I had that one and that one done when I was about 18 and didn't really know what I wanted tattoo-wise. Don't regret it now. Can't regret it. They're there. You learn to live with these scars, don't you? Yeah, got a few actual scars as well that I've had to learn to live with mentally and physically, but that's life. And that, well, it's Celtic Symbol, but it's the front cover of a band I've loved since my late teens, early 20s, New Model Army. I may do a few covers of their songs a cappella at some point, because they freely state that all their music is free to cover, no charge, and have always done that. I think they had a few wrangles with Sony about that many years ago, which is why they ended up quitting. Yeah, Sony are very good at demonetizing YouTube videos because music they claim they own is on it. No doubt if this channel ever takes off to the stage where I monetize things, a lot of these early videos are going to get deleted, but if I get to that stage, I will move to Floatplane or Patreon, and maybe do things that way, because I think they do tend to be a little more lenient on there, because you pay, well, basically they're funded by you, the viewers, rather than by advertising revenue. But I'd still probably have to get permission even then. I don't know. That's way down the line in the future. Way down the line. And at the moment, I don't really care about copyright strikes. These are only early videos, so why does it matter? I've got 38 subscribers, I think. Good people, all of you. And about 2,000 views. 91%, male, apparently. Maybe this is why I'm trying to up the female percentage here by being bare-chested. Don't know if that'll work. Maybe I need to get the cat in here. I mean, she's due feeding. Hi, Lex. Yeah, shamelessly plugging the idea that a cat is going to appear in the video. I hear it works on YouTube. Hi, Lex. Where are you? Hi, Lex. Nah, she'll be wanting her biscuits, so... Well, for the last part of the video, as we're nearly 40 minutes... Hello, Alex. There's our little girl. Where are you? Hello? You want your biscuits? Is that it? Look at that. Hello? Well, actually, she seems to have plenty of biscuits. Yes, she does. And the water is... Nah, I'll do a water. I did get you out of bed, didn't I, girl? Look, what's that? Oh, hello. So after the guest appearance from the cat, I think we'll conclude this video. It's been rather a long one. I hope you've stayed with me. You get to see a cat at the end. Okay? Even if you fast forward, it doesn't matter. So I shall water the cat, not literally. And then get on with the rest of my evening. And put some clothes on, I think. It's getting a bit chilly out here. Take care. Peace.